record. Okay. Alrighty.
Okay, so welcome to my first episode of Dancing in Detachment. And I don't know, the name might change over time. Let's see, but I just want to get it started. So who better than to join my first podcast than Asha, who's my best friend, and I've known for 2 years now?
Yeah, about.
But it feels like a long time.
Yes, been through a lot.
Yes, I feel like you came into my life at such a, I'm gonna say monumental, like when like things just started kicking off in my life, you know, I got my first job, COVID was happening, and then I was like just jumping into this like adult life, you know, and we met in Foxglove, which is super random.
And also what's more random is I don't usually meet people as much, and that was when I was starting to be more open with the people that I knew. And when you first asked me to like hang out the first time, I was like, yeah, okay, why not? And who knew 2 years later we'd
Here
be
we are,
in your room,
inseparable.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think I remember when I asked you like to hang out, it was still like a little bit standoffish,
yes,
right?
Yes. And I think it kind of fits with this topic,
Yes.
boundaries, because me being open to new things, you definitely being more of the extrovert, me not knowing when I could say no or if you would feel uncomfortable. And I remember even talking to David about this, how like...
David
is
our therapist. Context, we go to the same therapist.
That's how we bonded even more. And it was like me figuring out like, how do I deal with this new friendship? What are things that I can say, cannot say? And yeah, I learned a lot. Just if it's with boundaries, we can cover like whether it be family, friends, relationships, and ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, like, the first time I met you, I think the reason why I gravitated towards you is your energy, and you had a great smile.
I had very little energy, though.
To me, you had great energy. And also, your name was so memorable compared to, like, everyone else.
Really?
I was just like, Asha. Okay. And I was like, Asha, do you want to do a shot? Do you want to do a shot?
And I would always
and
be,
she
yes.
said yes. I mean, our friendship definitely started off with, like, a lot of partying.
Yes.
And a lot of going out, but then we also met our other friend Charlie, which brought us all together.
Yes,
I would
the
say.
trio.
Hi, Charlie.
Yeah, she should be here in one of the future episodes.
Yes,
definitely.
But yeah, and then I think the whole trajectory of it is like we started doing wholesome things, and actually I didn't even realize I never really did wholesome things with people in my life.
Yeah.
Like I would always be like, let's go for drinks, and I think I was at a point in my life where I was so comfortable with not actually talking to people and like not making a connection with them, because it's easier to drink and dance and not have to converse.
There's no responsibility there.
And then you can leave whenever you want. You don't actually have to be real and don't have to be vulnerable.
And you don't have to have any sort of deep talk conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's like, in my opinion, I think in Hong Kong especially, just because I grew up here, I think it's quite rare to find people who want to do wholesome things with you, and like,
especially if you met while partying, and want to see the other person in the day is like a, whoa, I can see you clearly, and now we're not intoxicated. Do we actually sync? Do we actually share the same energy? Yeah, that was a big step forward.
And speaking about therapy, also one of the first things that we bonded over was like, I just started therapy at the time because I got my first job, and I promised myself, like, since I was 18, I was like, first job, first salary, the first thing I'm doing is I'm setting myself like to therapy, because it's something I've always wanted. It's like such a good investment to make. And I remember talking to you about it. I was like, oh my god, you should totally go. David is amazing. I don't know if we're allowed to disclose his name, but
there's so many Davids out there.
Don't Google it.
Because that was the first moment where I realized that we could definitely be friends, because when you said that, it was like, oh, this girl is not just a party girl. She does want to better herself, and she is trying to get through life, which I'm still doing. Especially we have an age gap. It's quite a big age gap, so it's even weirder that like we actually mesh together really well, and I'm... Just because there's an age gap, I'm going through the same thing. Yeah,
basically in different stages, and different people, different characters.
So age is definitely not a limit in any way. If the energy matches, it just matches. Yeah.
Agree. And I think like it's so cool, and I think inspiring. I think you're one of the first and the most staple like people in my life. Like especially I think like as you mentioned with an age gap, like I don't even think about that. It's just like there's nothing in the world I could need to hide from me,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's really special and that's really nice.
Yay.
But how would you say that a sustainable and safe friendship is built?
Ooh, okay. I would say, speaking from ours first, what I learned from it, because again, I am such an introvert. I'm the type that I need to be adopted by an extrovert. But then, as an introvert, I don't realize that with the boundaries, with friendship, as an introvert, I can just completely go your way.
Mm-hmm.
I will if you want to sway me left, I will go left. If you want me to go right, and then I don't realize that there are times where I don't want to do the certain thing that person wants to do, and I wouldn't know how to say no. And so when I was much younger, I didn't know how to do this, and maybe because I didn't feel safe with the person. But with you, because I could voice it, I swear, in the very beginning of our friendship, I was worried. Like, I didn't know if I was coming across, was I being mean? Was I being distant? Am I doing this because I'm scared to have this connection? Is it because I didn't trust you? I was doubting myself. I definitely was a lot of that projecting. Until I realized you were okay with me disappearing once in a while and me coming back, and you didn't take it personally. And I'm like, oh, that observation led me to believe, oh, this friendship could keep going further, I think. What about you on your extrovert
I would say,
side?
like, bouncing off of that, I think when I first met you, I was still going through the stage of, like, I would take things so personally. And I think once you were introduced into my life, I could see things so differently. Like, you just gave me such a feeling of safety, as I always said, that no matter where you are or how long we go without talking, or if you disappear or you say no, like, I would never doubt that you care for me and that you love me. And I think, like, you are very staple in teaching me boundaries. I think that boundaries has always been a theme for me, like, in my life, but it's never really, like, hit me. Like, I've never really understood it. I've always been like, oh, if that person really liked me, then they would do that.
Want to hang out all the time.
Yeah, then they would not say no. Like, they would want to have dinner with me. They would want to have a sleepover with me. Like, if you really liked me, you would. But then, like, you come along and you show me in all the other ways, like, hey, like, these are all the million ways that I like you. But then here's my boundary. Like, you know how you say you're more, like, introverted. Sometimes you don't want to come out for dinner, which is fine. Sometimes you don't want to have 3 sleepovers in a row, which is fine.
Does love her sleepovers. I still remember the first time we were talking about it. I think I've slept over once. Yeah, with DiD, her dog. Honestly, DiD should be here at this point. Mascot. And I was like, oh, this is really nice. I really like that feeling. But I don't know if I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, I also like my own space at the same time. And there's a point where I would rather go home. Like, if it maybe, it's weird. That's also a weird thing. It's like, why do I not mind spending 3 days with a romantic interest, but with a friend, it's like, it's so different. Yeah. That's also, like, a weird gray boundary. Like, I don't know how to define that.
I guess, also, disclaimer, none of us are professionals. This is all opinions and personal experience.
Yes.
So, but...
take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. I would say, like, in my experience, I think romantic relationships, like, I think it stems from our insecurities. Like, I think a lot of it is, like, your attachment, like, and your childhood, and a lot of that, like, when you're in a romantic relationship, it's, like, spikes that. It, like, pokes it. So then there's a lot of more reasons why you would want to stay there, I guess. But with friendships, like, I guess why it's also, it feels more safe is because it doesn't poke these wounds that much. Like, if, say, the guy that you're dating, or girl, is like, oh, like, Asha, I don't want to have dinner with you tonight. Like, that would feel so much worse than if I was like, hey, Asha, like, I'm kind of tired. Like,
you're right.
Yeah, the person you're dating is like, hey, I'm tired. Like, can we just meet up next week or tomorrow? You'd probably be like, what? Like, but like, if you cared about me enough.
Wouldn't spending time with me make you feel better?
Yeah. But, like, we would never say that to each other, right?
That's so true. We'd be like, okay, take your time.
Yeah, I'm here if you need me.
That's so true.
And that's one thing I'm learning with dating is, like, you have to learn to see that person as a friend first. Like, I was talking to you earlier about, you know, when, like, the person I'm seeing or whatever, like, says something and it would trigger me. But then I think about, okay, if Asha said this to me, would I be okay? And then I'm like, you know what? I would be. Like,
that's so true.
Right? Like, if I'm okay with Asha, my best friend, saying it, then I should give that person that I'm seeing the same respect. And if the person, like, your friend, is saying these things and you're not okay with it, they're probably not that good of a friend.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I
then
mean?
We should
like,
never
they're
meet
not
up.
setting they're not setting a good example. I think that the people around you who you call your closest friends or best friends should set like a good bar, like a good example of how a romantic lover should treat you.
That's so true.
So you could kind of like compare it,
Yeah.
not the same way, but like similar.
Yeah, that respect, that boundary.
Yeah.
Like giving each other space and respecting that. Oh, it's so true.
Like, it's weird. I feel like once you start dating someone, it feels like you automatically owe me this. But it's like, why does that person...
We should be on the same page.
Yeah, like, now you owe me more. You owe me, like, this that I can't even give you, or my friends can't even give me. And then it gets to the point where you feel like, am I just using them to fill, like, a void?
That's so true.
Yeah.
I have a lot to think about now. But so does that mean, okay, say with, like, whether it be friendship or a relationship, if right off the bat, everything is just spiked the entire time, it might not be a healthy boundary, or like that healthy relationship isn't really there.
What do you mean by spiked?
I don't know, like say if you have a friend, I feel like I had that type of friend before. It's like everything was like we'd hang out all the time, but then when the lows would happen, it would just get a little bit nasty because everything spiked so quickly. There was no boundary, there was no talk of anything because there was no line between us. Everything was muddled and just blurry, that everything just kind of burst into flame, I feel like, at the end. Because I think it's really important to set a boundary. Now my whole life is flashing before my eyes. It's so true, because if you don't set that clear boundary right off the bat when there's an opportunity set, if you're just trying to let the other person feel comfortable, like, yeah, just do things that you want to do. And then, but when the time comes and you're just completely like ready to explode, it's a bit too late to communicate that.
Yeah. I would say like that rings for like friendships and romantic, right? Like in the beginning, I think I'm a person who usually always just like full send, like friend or lover or whatever, full send. I love spending time with you, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you know, like let's do everything together. And I'm still kind of like that, but I'm just more wary with who I allow into that part of my life, because I think it's beautiful when it is the right person.
Yes.
And the person also loves spending time with you. I think, why not? Like, no shame in that. But it's just gaining a bit more of a sense of who these people should be. And I think also in relationships, like when it's like, no, I don't want to say that word again, but like full steam ahead.
But it's true.
Yeah, when it's full steam ahead, so fast, it ends up being that I feel like you don't actually know who that person is. I feel like you're doing all these like really fun activities and you're making all these memories which are new, but you don't really know who they are and their past, and especially if you didn't set boundaries, then you create this fake person.
There's like this fantasy, this person is like, they go with everything. There is no line. I can step over everything, and they can step over everything that I'm doing. And then you realize one day, oh no. Yeah.
It's like setting an example of how you would like to be treated, and then knowing when to draw the line of like, okay, so I've shown you how, like a reflection of how I want to be treated, and if you can't reciprocate that, then I feel like I need to pull back a bit. Yeah. Because otherwise it's not like even grounds, right? And
with us, pulling back is also, it does feel unnatural for us. Yeah, it does feel really unnatural. But then telling ourselves that boundary is this weird way of, a really healthy way, not weird way. It's weird for us, but like a healthy way to set that boundary and to respect ourselves. But my mom popped into my head. Okay. It's so hard to set boundaries with my mother. Family, I feel okay with friends and relationship. It can be set a lot more clearly, more directly. Family, that's a different ball game.
Because I feel like, I don't know, like I feel like things are taken so much more to heart when it comes to family. It's not like, it's like it goes into this whole game of like, I raised you, I made you, and you definitely like, how could you not do this for me? And I feel like it's something that I'm working on as well. Like I have so much love for my family, but it's hard for me to show them the same love that I show my friends. And I think it's because there's a lot of things that's happened in the past, which like, as I said, like when it comes to family attachments and your childhood, like those are things that would take ages to work on and to like detangle and stuff. But with friendships, like it just doesn't hit that deep. You know, so I understand like what you mean, family and boundaries is definitely really hard.
So hard. Even whether you're living with them or I'm living apart from my family, that boundary there, it's like, they don't want that boundary.
Yeah.
They don't want it. And it's a really weird, like, I find it very difficult, especially with my parents. My dad's really old. I mean, Dad, if you're watching, you're 40, but in reality, he's not. There's a weird communication, like, there's miscommunication a lot of the time because he doesn't really know what I'm going through, and I have to repeat myself a lot of the time. My mom, she's Filipina, and so English-wise, not super fluent, so there's a lot that I can't really explain to her, and she can't explain back to me. So it's even harder to set that boundary. It's so nice to actually be able to communicate.
Like,
with
there's a
your family.
culture gap as well,
Yeah.
right? And definitely a generation gap. And I think it gets to a point where, for me, like, I just have to accept that there are some things that you just can't change.
Yes.
Like, as much as you wish you could have them be on the same level as you on certain things, there are just things that you have to accept.
Yeah.
And
our therapist taught me that as well.
Our therapist. Shout out. Yeah, like, being able to accept that you can't change it is, like, almost freeing. You just, like, when it happens, you're like, okay. Like, then you focus more on, like, what can I do for myself? Like, if you can't respect my boundaries, then, okay, let me create them within myself. Like, maybe I'm not gonna allow myself to be in that situation as much, or I'm gonna take myself out of the situation when it gets too heated. So those are things that I can control. Yeah.
I agree. Like, finding that healthy way to set that boundary and to...
Yeah.
Because, I think it's a lot more complicated with family. Like, a lot of things that I had to say with that, I wanted to take myself out of that situation or avoid that situation, turned into a lot of avoidance or packaging something that maybe should need to explode, but because I didn't want it to explode, I'd go out of my way to fix it, and that also creates other problems.
Yeah.
It's just so many topics.
It's, like, definitely, like, for me, I feel like most of my important conversations with my parents end up being only when it's, like, at that very detrimental stage, and it's, like, way too much, and I have to get it out now. But I feel like these messages, in one way or another, can only be explained through such a strong emotion, even though it doesn't necessarily need to be like that.
Yeah.
And speaking about that, the other day I was at a wedding, and, you know, like, I was watching these two people, they're 26, they're getting married, and they were talking about, like, I'm at your service for the rest of my life, and, like, you are my number one priority, and I will give you my all. That's what they said. Like, I'm giving you my all, and everything I do, like, I have you in mind. And I was like, that type of love is so unknown to me, and the only time I've ever known that type of love was when it was super scary. Like, how scary is that, to give, basically, your entire power, like, your existence to someone, and then, like,
just take it.
Maybe I just don't get it yet. I probably don't. But
I don't get it yet.
Yeah.
Like, say, who would be the... So, you didn't really know the people who were getting married, right?
No.
You're just a guest. Is there someone else in your life that you feel like that's being shown to you? Is there?
Like, I know my parents love me a lot.
Yeah.
But, okay, not, like, romantically,
Yeah.
but, like... no, I think that... Okay, the only time I would have been any close to that type of love would have been, like, my first proper relationship. But I think that was so intense, and I'm sure you've been through similar, like, super intense, and, like, I would die for you, and, like, I would do anything for you, and you're my world, and I would drop, and you expect the same, like, if I would drop my world for you, so should you, and if you don't drop your world for me, then you don't love me, and we've grown from that, but I would say that's the only time I've, like, come close to that type of love, which I don't actually want that, but, like, if that healthy one exists, I want to try it.
Like, but also you don't know what they go through behind the scenes, right? Like, I look at my parents, they've been together 34, 35 years, and I look at them and it's like, would I ever, if there was someone like my dad, would I date him? God knows. Someone like my mom, would I date her? God no. But then they get together, and it's so confusing, and they're at each other's throats some of the time, but then sometimes you see them laughing at the dumbest inside joke. And it's like, oh, that's so pure. But then you also see them put up with a lot of things that the other person is doing. They give up a lot of their life. And it's like, how much are you truly willing to
like
do
sacrifice.
for them? Yeah.
I don't know, like maybe you too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when I start seeing someone, like, or like before, it would be like, if you're not so interested, then I feel like I am. But then
if that person's not interested, you are.
Yeah, but then so now I reverse the thing. Like, instead of thinking whether or not that person's interested, I would just create this scenario in my head. I'd be like, if that person came to my house today and was like, why, do you want to be my girlfriend? I would probably be like, no, because I don't know you. So I would turn the table around and be like, okay, if that happened, you would say no, then why are you so convinced that he would say yes today? You know? Yeah. So I think it's just in our heads.
Yeah, we're unlearning a lot from ourselves as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that we realize might not be the healthiest, although it's... But with our personalities also... Because we're so willing to do a lot of these things.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to reflect and ask us, was that healthy? Was that a healthy thing?
Was that necessary?
Yeah. Could you have not saved that for maybe next month?
Like, okay. I think about this every day of my life.
Okay, what is it?
Okay, something I wrote down today was actually something along the lines of, like, I am still on the cusp of knowing what true human, like, hatred is. Like, how hurtful people can be. I don't think I know to the full extent of how hurt that I could be. But at the same time, I'm still also on the cusp of knowing how much people are capable of loving. Because I think I'm so constantly scared of, like, oh my god, this is not the worst one yet. Like, there's always going to be worse. But then I'm like, wait, there's also, like, good. Yeah. If I don't know the worst, how am I supposed to know the best? Yeah. Like, it's always the duality of it all is insane to me. And I think I'm really grateful that, as we say, like, we give so much, blah, 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 but, like, when we do find the right group of people, for example, you and, like, my other friends, Charlie, these people, like, you guys, allow me to feel so safe in my giving. I would not feel like I'm ever doing too much. I could send you flowers, I could write you a love letter, I could fly to another country to see you, and I would never feel like, oh my god, they're going to be scared of me and leave me. So even if romantically that's something that I can't pour myself into, being able to pour myself into the other people that I love is enough. Yeah. You know?
I get that. And I remember when we were hanging out, maybe I think it was last year, we were playing We're Not Really Strangers, right? And then I remember I was sort of projecting my fears onto our friendship, because I had so many friends around me that we would be like, oh, we're going to keep in touch, blah, 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 and then we don't, because, again, I'm the introvert. I don't really put that much effort into it, because I'm also worried that, oh, since we're living different lives, maybe we should just slowly drift apart. And seeing that the other person's also not putting much effort into it, we drift apart. And then me not feeling safe in a new friendship because I've had these past failures, if lack of a better word. And it just sort of stems from that, and not having that trust to give a little bit more as well.
But that's also, I think, normal, right? As we said, like, not always need to be full steam ahead.
Yes.
Like, our friendship was built really over time.
And it was really comfortable. Nothing was forced.
Yeah, nothing was forced. It was always like, hey, you need some space? I'll give you the space. And, like, and I think the main thing of why I feel so sure about you is because I don't doubt you. Like, there is so much security and so much safety in this relationship that you could walk away tomorrow and I would only be worried about your safety. Like, if you, like, didn't text me, but I wouldn't be like, oh my god, like, she hates me or anything. And I think, like, in a relationship, that should, like, in anything, romantic, friendship, I think, actually, a good point you brought up was, I'm mostly the initiator for plans. And I'm realizing, like, in relationships...
Are you the one who initiates plans?
I'm normally, like, with my friends, I am. But that's just how I am. Like, it's not, like, because I'm dating someone or I'm not. That's just how I am. I always want to do things. But then in relationships, I'll think, like, oh my gosh, why are you not initiating as much? But then I also think it's because there's not that same sense of security. Yeah, okay. So you need a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, because you wouldn't question why I don't initiate stuff.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, I sometimes do. Not a lot. It's usually I leave it to her.
And when you do, it's very nice.
And then usually when she initiates, I will show up most of the time. Yes, I will.
FYI.
Yeah, so true.
It's like, I guess this is really like comparing like friendship love with like romantic love, and then seeing how romantic love is basically
a friend that you just want to love for the rest of your life.
Romantic love is basically the trauma partner that you decide on who can best fit my trauma.
The trauma
Like, you know,
partner.
like everyone's traumatized, and we're bringing it all to the table, and we're trying to piece it together like a puzzle. Like, okay, are you gonna help me, like, push my trauma away? Are we gonna deal with it? But, like, with friends, it's, like, healthy.
Yeah.
Like, we're not gonna put all our traumas on the table.
I get that you have trauma, you get that I have trauma, and we're just trying to move forward. But with a partner...
It's like, it's our trauma now.
Yeah.
Now it's our trauma.
Sharing custody of this entire trauma.
Basically, people don't need kids, they just need a therapist.
I saw today that on, I forgot what news outlet, saying that Hong Kong has a very low fertility rate. And then the comment section was like, with these rent rates?
prices?
Yeah, no. I was like, man, we have trauma. We have a lot to unpack that our parents, I'm sure my mother still to this day hasn't unpacked a lot of her stuff. So I think that's why when we're looking for a partner, whether it be friendship or a relationship, it's, we have a lot to unpack and we want someone to build it up with us rather than push it down.
Yeah, and allow it to all come out. Like, I mean, the point of this podcast is really being able to connect and be vulnerable. And, I mean, why I wanted to start a podcast was because when I was going through a really, like, low time of my life where I was fully convinced that, then this was me projecting, like, I was fully convinced in my head that no one would understand me, like, even my closest friends or my family. Like, you get to a point where you're like, no one's gonna understand me, then why would I even bother telling you how shit I feel? Because it's just gotten to that point. And then I was thinking, I remember sitting, like, in the park at night by myself on the floor crying and thinking, like, wow, like, I really wish that someone could just talk to me about this and someone could voice how shitty this feeling is. And so that just stems from the need for connection, you know? And so that's why I'm like, okay, let's talk, let's connect, let's actually be vulnerable, put it all on the table, like, and it's really ironic that loneliness, like, people feel so lonely, even though loneliness is really the most common feeling between us all. Like, we all feel lonely, but when we do feel lonely, we feel like no one gets it. So I'm like, okay, let's just be lonely together.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't, like, especially, sometimes when I'm lonely, I don't think I even realize that I'm lonely. Then I'll start packing my head with other stuff to do. I want to, like, sort of go autopilot. So I'm not aware of the loneliness that's hitting me. And then it's like, oh, another day's done. Okay, bed. Yeah. And then tomorrow I might feel better, and I have something to do tomorrow, thank God. So I won't feel lonely. I won't have to think about this loneliness. Yeah,
I remember we talked about that. I think, like, I was filming myself cooking, and then I didn't even talk the whole video. You could see, like, I was just like, chop, 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 and it was so, like, almost scary to see, like, my movements. It was so robotic, and you don't even think. You're just like, carrot, onion, soup. And after watching it, I was like, holy shit, like, I didn't stop for 1 minute to think about what I was doing. And then I realized, actually, I live most of my life like that. Right?
Why do you think that, though? Why do you think that you're living your life like that?
I feel like it's almost like when you kind of shut down, but you can still get your tasks done, you don't actually need to think. You don't need to be alone with your thoughts. And I think that comes also very commonly when people like to overwork and they don't like a moment of silence. And I was forced into that moment of silence when, like, I stopped, like, I am in between jobs. Yes. So, like, that automatically cuts most of your schedule out. And then that's when I hit kind of that bottom, was a lot of things were happening in my life, and there was nothing to keep me occupied. So I had no other choice but to sit here with my own thoughts. But I'm really grateful for that, because without that, I wouldn't have the clarity that I have now. Like, you really have to be like, okay, let's deal with it.
Because we talked about this, we were messaging saying that we like to care for other people because we don't want to care for ourselves, because when we care for ourselves, we kind of go into panic mode and, like, I don't want to take care of myself, let me just make soup so I don't think about it. Or let me just love someone right now so I can love them and give them all my attention and I don't have to worry about my life.
It's like using someone else as a distraction from your own problems.
Yeah,
it's
whether
like,
you're making soup or you're loving
perhaps that's why we like finding people with problems. But it's ironic because we are the ones with it.
Yes, and that's why we're friends. that, in a way, we sort of mirror ourselves, and we every time you might, maybe, I don't know, like, if you talk to other people about what you're thinking about, I don't know what kind of response they have, but every time you come to me with an issue, I'm like, same. Going through the same thing. I get that. I know where you're coming from. and kind of going.
It's like it feels,
the same way.
feels so natural to want to care and to just not fix, but also
it's like because you feel like, oh, I'm kind of fixing it. We don't do that now.
Not anymore.
No, not anymore. But when we did hopefully fix someone, we're like,
you feel accomplished.
Accomplished, and I'm sort of fixing because they're a part of you, so you're kind of fixing a part of you, which is not true.
And you feel needed. You feel needed.
Yeah.
Like
a purpose.
Yeah. Like I know we like our relationship history with people is super interesting. But I would say like I think the biggest impact a relationship has had on me is that same one I was talking about earlier. I think that I was so young that I wasn't even aware of what I was doing. I was just automatically like, oh my god, let me hold you and make your world so beautiful and perfect and make you happy and then slowly that person was actually becoming better. And then because I wasn't spending any time addressing my own issues as they were like progressing and doing well, I was like falling way behind. And then it was very, I would say, toxic. Because it got to a point where I was just like, oh my gosh, like you don't need me anymore, but why would you not do the same for me now that
I've given you everything? Yeah.
It's like I've emptied my whole cup for you, now mine's empty, you're gonna leave. But that's just life. It's like it was just my decision to do that.
And also thinking about that in a different sense, it's like, okay, we didn't set a boundary for ourselves or that person, and how much should we also think about the other person who just took? Because I do believe that there are people out there who just take. I don't know if they know that they're taking advantage, but we don't know, and to us, even if they are taking advantage, we're kind of okay with that. We're okay that they don't set that boundary with us. And it's it took me a while to realize and to get myself out of there, but there are people like that.
I think those are most of the people who you ask them something and you're like, why not? I think those are like, because they don't really think about it. Yeah. They just go like, yeah, well, if you're gonna hand me this,
why would I say
no? Why would I not take it?
Yeah.
They don't think about like, oh my god, how much is that costing that
but
person?
Have you ever had that conversation where it's like, oh, but I did this for you, and then their reply is,
I didn't ask you to.
Yes! Oh, you're just like, true, you didn't ask
I came to your football game. I didn't ask you to.
I waited 3 hours for you. I didn't ask you. And you're like, that is true. Am I being the unhealthy one? Is it because they were setting, there was no boundary, but like, true? Like,
I think we were setting an example of how we wanted to be treated.
Yeah.
And then it was just getting stepped on over and over.
And we're like, no, they're not like that. But then, we kept getting stepped over. And we think we're asking too much. Or that person's like, I didn't ask for that. It's like, that sort of mind fuck. So to find someone who actually gets why you put so much effort in and they're willing to give back as well would be great. Yeah. It would be so great.
And you know what? Like, now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, is there ever like this perfect relationship? Like, I don't think so. There isn't one. Like, you know what the thing is? There could be two people who are just so hurt and so like there's so much going on and it's actually so unhealthy, but somehow they make it work. You know, if you find the most like insecure person and then you find a person who loves providing and loves giving, somehow that works. As long as
this person's intention is always like, it's not being like, I'm not taking advantage of this person.
It's like, I am so needy, but then this person, I love to be needed.
Yeah.
But although it textbook wise not very healthy, but in their life they could get married and actually live a pretty happy life.
Because if they're sort of like, I know what you're doing and you know what I'm doing.
They're like each other's drug.
In a better way, in a better word, they're compatible. Compatibility.
Oh my god. See, I didn't realize it was so subjective. Like, you know how it's like, oh, it's like, no, it must be like this. And I'm like, but actually, like, you know what? That's so scary.
Right? Like, you think of it like that.
They're actually, like, could we just be the most damaged version of ourselves and then find a person who is equally as damaged and then piece it together and we'd be really happy? Would that save us from all the work?
It just, we have to find that person is the issue.
But I guess the chances of us finding that person is probably the same as us being a healthy person.
Well, we're getting there. At least we're aware.
Technical difficulties, but we're back. With our fruit chips. Saying that I feel like two people could be like just so unhealthy in their own ways, but still compatible for each other.
Yes.
And how I feel like we're compatible with different people in different stages of our lives. And so there's not that one perfect compatible person that we're chasing. But actually, makes sense now that it's not finding that compatible person. It's being the best self
During
so that
time?
who you date is the compatible person is the one that you want. You know what I mean?
I do. Okay, say that you were dating someone right now, and you're not the person that you were before, but then you're also still trying to be your best self that you are now, to sort of... Why is it so hard to describe?
Like a reflection.
Yes. Like you're... Is it mirroring? Like, hopefully the person that you're choosing is someone that's the reflection of who you are now, in that sort of compatibility.
And that you're sure that the person you are now is the person you would date. Would you date yourself? You know?
I would right now. Oh, that's a good question. Would you date
yourself?
Yeah. In that sort of compatibility.
Would
you
I
know
date
who
myself?
you are.
Would I give myself the ick?
Are you compatible with yourself now, YY?
Would I date myself? I wish it was like a full immediate yes.
Really? But it's not.
But I feel like I don't think anything's wrong with me, but I think maybe a part of me is because I'm so available to love. A part of me is scared of finding someone equally as available as I am.
Why? Huh?
Maybe it's a mask. Maybe I'm masking my unavailableness with my availability. Like, because I don't... Like, when you asked me, like, would I date myself, I had to think. Like, there's obviously still things that I'm working on and I think I'll forever be working towards. But the idea of having someone as loving as me loving me back is actually pretty scary.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you ever thought of it that way?
No, I've always thought, like, why would you not want that? But I'm like, wait a minute. Like, actually, it takes a very secure person to be able to accept that level of love. And
Like,
with friendships, I can find that. But, like, relationships... Yeah.
Okay, like, think about this. Say that you were dating someone compatible, like, right now, in a year's time, and they proposed.
Okay.
Do you think you would... Are you in this time of space where you're like, yeah, sure, yeah.
If I was dating someone and from a year...
And you've been dating for a year, smooth sailings, and they were the type of person that's kind of like, I see you as the one. Would you be the person forever? You think you could commit to that level?
If that's...
Oh, well, I really thought, okay, maybe a year ago you would be the type that would be like, yes, because I found my person. But now you're more kind of like, oh, am I ready for that kind of commitment? Because you say that we're dating people, we're getting to know a lot of people.
1 year, like, do I know for sure?
You could be dating for 8 years and you couldn't be sure. Am I saying? What's your limit, do you think? Right now, this yin yang 2023, what would be your ideal, like, time to actually get to know a person before you could fully commit to your life to them, you think?
I would say a few years.
Okay.
Because I've had relationships where I thought they were the love of my lives, and then we date for a few years, and then you change, like, as people. And I think especially during this stage of my life, it's going to be so, like, I mean, like, I'm gonna be wanting to explore different career options, and maybe, like, I have, honestly, a year from now, I don't know what I'm gonna be doing. And I think not having that stability yet, and not wanting to settle just, like, yeah, I'm just gonna be doing this for the rest of my life, that also affects the way that I date. Because if this, 10 years from now, perhaps I have a more stable sense of who I am and who what I like to do, then I can be more, like, I can predict whether or not that person's suitable for my life. Because I think, like, when we talk about the person, a lot of it we think about feelings and emotions and how much you love and like that person, but also, like, having to accept reality is, like, you could love someone so much, but also could mean, like, because you love them so much, you also respect that being in this relationship could, in a sense, hold you back or hold them back. And I think it's a different type of love. It's not like a I own you love and I need you love, which some people work out perfectly fine. You know, people can be like, I'm gonna quit my job and move with you to Sweden or wherever it is, and I'll just live with you forever. And be happily ever after, and just kind of screw it. This is my life, and if that's your goal, that's okay. And I think like just in this moment, like I think there's more that I want to do. You know? And
would you want to have like a partner? Say you had a partner right now, just someone who would grow with you, slowly figure life out, and if it didn't work out, it didn't work out.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's like the main thing. I mean, like that's as far as I can see for now, is that the person that if I do commit to is going to be someone that we can do our own thing and kind of inspire each other. But if it ever gets to a point where it's like I can't give you more because it would take away from me, then as hurtful as it is, I feel like, okay, I have to respect that. Unless there was like a game going along, like, oh, like you didn't tell me this the whole time, and then one day you're like, oh, actually I'm moving to Russia, you know? Then I'd be like, that was a waste of my time. But you know, life is so unpredictable. So 1 year for me at this point, at this age, it's not enough. Because unless like I just can't see that happening. Like 1 year, and then I could like maybe, I don't know, but like if I like that person still like so much, we could wait a little bit. Like why don't we date for another year? Or another one, and just see where we are at. Because I don't have a stable career. I'm still literally starting everything right now. So I would say a few years. If it were to get to that point, it would be a few years, and I'd be like, okay, I think that we'd be great together in life. Then cool. Yeah.
I'm definitely, even now, I'm thinking about, like, I've been in like 2 very serious relationships, and thinking about finding someone that you're willing to grow with and not grow apart, and be so supportive of that other person's growth, because they might change along the way. Like, hopefully that their core is still the same, but there are going to be branches of them that are different, and being accepting and actually loving the view, like, oh, this flower is blooming into this whole bush or whatever, and being like, I don't know, like just appreciating them for that growth rather than being like, oh, you're a stranger to me. I think that sort of compatibility would be great to have.
That's interesting, because I would say, like, bouncing off of that, my first proper relationship, I remember writing down in my journal, like, I don't recognize you anymore, you're not the person that I loved. And I realized, like, I was just not at a space to realize that that's how life is. Like, people change, and they're not meant to stay the same. Like, I don't want you to stay the same. Like, I want, even with you, like, I want you to grow, I want you to change.
We've grown so much in this year.
Like, change is so inevitable and so necessary. And I think what makes people compatible, I think one part is the essential core parts of them. I would say their core
their character?
Characteristics. Like, I think you'll always be kind, and I think you'll always be patient and caring. But then there's also other parts which are going to change, which is like maybe at some point maybe you're gonna not want to do certain things, or maybe your personality is gonna be less outgoing or more introverted, and I think that's okay, like, because I love you for like who you are, and who you are to me is not all of that outside. And I think with a partner, it's a part of that, and then also chemistry. You know,
what counts as chemistry though?
Oof, that's
is it the spark? Is it the, oh dear Lord, what is chemistry? Does chemistry come off right off the bat when you first meet them? Is chemistry something that you slowly build on? You're slowly adding to the little potion that you're making, and then that's the chemistry. Like,
I think so much of it that for me, I don't want to accept is that loving someone is a choice. Like, it's a choice you have to constantly make. It's like you have to wake up every day and choose to love that person. Some days even if you don't want to, or if it's harder to, like, you have to choose. They pissed
you off, and you're just kind of like, I hate you right now.
And because if you just chose like, oh, it's too hard for me to deal with, I'm choosing that I don't want to commit to this love anymore. You could do that.
True.
Right. So it's also about a person's grit, I would say, resilience to change in situations. And then I think for chemistry, it's a tough one. I feel like chemistry is like you want a first date and you're like bouncing off each other, you can't stop talking, you feel so bubbly and good inside, but chemistry is not what makes a relationship last.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I've always said, like I could have chemistry with some guy at the bar, but he would not be someone I want to spend the rest of my life with.
He's not someone that you want to see in the day, and then you realize things don't bounce off actually.
Like chemistry, you know, like necessary, but not what makes a relationship.
It's not the necessity that requires. Because that reminds me, okay, say with my longest relationship, it's the word choice is such a big thing, because I don't know if I just woke up one day or had an epiphany. It was like, I think I choose to no longer continue this. I choose to no longer love you the next day, or love you in the way that I have been, that I need to leave. It really is a choice.
Yeah. And like, at what point do you draw the line where you are choosing yourself and not choosing the other person? And another question I have is there a way to be in a relationship where you are choosing yourself, but the other person still feels like you're choosing them at the same time? Like, is that the epitome of what healthy is?
Or is it, okay, I have my life and I'm, because I think this word always like confuses me. It's like, do you want someone who completes you? Is that the toxic way of thinking? Because you hear it at wedding ceremonies.
Yeah, it's like, you're my other half, you're my better half.
You complete me. You were the missing piece. But should you already be complete? Like, or can these two things coexist? Like, there are people who do need someone to complete them, and are there other people that are completely complete in themselves, and they sort of like, I'm gonna take this out so you can fit into my little life.
Or like, can that person add like a cherry on top?
Right?
But then without the cherry on top, was the cupcake ever complete? Big questions.
Yeah, so it's like, is it a mentality? Is it, I'm assuming it's okay to have any of these. Like, if someone said to you, this person completes me, would you say, that's toxic? You couldn't say that, right? That'd be so mean. Like, if they're in that really romantic bubble, or if they've been married for 20 years and they do say that, like, it works for them.
Good for you, I guess.
Slay, I guess.
I guess.
Right? Like, there's so many angles to look at. Like, maybe you have to find the right person who is compatible, and you can say this, and realizing in the back there's nothing toxic about it.
Or you get to a point where you've always been complete, but then when this person came into your life and comes into your life,
you realize it
adds to your life, right?
Adds to
and
your
then
life.
So the idea of without the cherry, it feels like the cupcake was never complete, but it was complete the whole time. It's just the mentality.
True.
It's like, you were actually complete the whole time. This added to it, but without it, you were just fine.
Yeah.
Like, you were a fine person before.
You didn't realize you liked the little cherry on top.
Yeah.
You're fine as it
and then
was.
And then when the person's gone, you just obsess about this cherry. You know? Like... I don't know why I'm using this cherry on a cupcake thing, but...
It's gonna turn into one of your memes. Your meme's gonna be eating, like, a cupcake. It's like, something's missing from this cupcake.
Where's my cherry?
I actually want 2 cherries. One's not enough. This cherry's not big enough. Like, there's so much nitpicking that we could do in a relationship. And we're nitpicking on ourselves and what we want in a partner. Like, it's sort of at a point where what is enough for you at that time? Because I'm sure we all have friends whose partners, we look at them and they're kind of like, huh? You hear them complain about their partner, and it's like, maybe you could find someone else. Or are you just content with some people not being able to change in a way that you want? You know? Yeah.
It's like, do we just eventually have to, like, settle?
A little bit. Because we're not perfect, and probably that other person's settling for stuff that they don't like us doing. And we do our best to change and make little spaces for them to fit in, but there are times where you kind of have to accept that person is how they are.
Yeah.
And how much do you choose to love them the next day? Yeah.
So I guess we do settle at one point, like, and not in a sad way, I guess, but like in like a, I think that this is fine.
Yeah.
But like, we also talked about how like that might not be it, because like anyone could be fine. Like,
what? Settle? Like, is there anything? I'm sure, like, right now when we're talking about this, we'd be like, we wouldn't settle for this, we wouldn't settle for that.
And I feel like a lot of it also comes, like, for me, is like from what I see online. You know, you have all these therapists on like Instagram posting stuff like never settle for anything less.
Yes.
Like you deserve this.
Yes.
And
The one when you start thinking, when you start asking yourself if I deserve more, you do.
it's like, and then it's like the 3-month rule. Like if this by this time, it's not like secure, then done. Or if this person ever makes you question yourself, then you already have your answer. And I'm like, what if I just have anxiety? Like,
what if they just need more time to get to know me and maybe I should communicate more?
yeah, I feel like we live in such a harsh cancel culture world.
Yeah.
And like it just seeps into everything. Like it's not just canceling celebrities, it's like canceling
friendships,
people in our own lives. Like,
jobs.
Hey, you wronged me?
Yeah.
Screw you.
Mm.
And I'm guilty of that.
Like there's only black and white. Basically,
Yeah.
there's only, you have a question, there's only one answer, and that's the one that you should follow.
Yeah, and that's something I actually wanted to talk about, was nothing's ever black and white, and it's so hard to accept that. Because it's so much easier to run with a narrative. You know, and just be like, this was wrong, and this person sucks.
Yeah.
And it's not my fault.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you cheated, then you're just a horrible, horrible person.
Yeah.
But
then
like,
you hear stories about people maybe who've cheated, and they're like, they forgive that person and they have a healthy life after. Like, it was just like, they could have reasons, like it was a sexual thing, there was no emotional cheating, but then there are other people like...
Not condoning cheating at all.
No, it's just, it's that gray area for some people, and is it really black and white? Can you move forward from someone who is cheating, which, again, a completely different topic, or if someone who has wronged you in a way, could you forgive them and move forward? So much to build upon.
Like, it's like, where do you draw the line between accepting that someone's human
and they fucked up?
Okay, no, actually, understanding something doesn't mean that you have to be okay with it. So understanding the idea that nothing's black and white, no one's a totally good or totally bad person, still doesn't give that person a right to be in your life. I would say sometimes it's like blessing and a curse. Like, you understand, sometimes it's worse because you understand.
Yeah.
You know?
Then if you ask, and I guess at the end of the day, you ask yourself, can you accept them like that? And if you really can't, then you should just cut them out, I guess. I guess at the end of the day, it's that question of asking yourself, are you happy? Is this what you want?
Like, does this person add to your life?
It should be a really simple question, I think. Like, I think before I would ask a lot of, like, ifs and stuff. If I did this, would have that been... I think the simplest question is, everything so far, am I happy with this decision? And if it doesn't, then maybe I should figure out another path to get myself there.
I mean, it's something that I've talked about recently a lot, is like this cancel culture idea. It's like, at one point I think it's good. Like, some people, they don't deserve, who am I to say, but like, some people shouldn't really have a platform, I guess. But that's just like, then again, it's my opinion, right? Who am I to say that that person doesn't deserve a platform?
Yeah.
But then we could all, like, a major collective of people could be like, that person is spewing a lot of negative stuff, a lot of hate, and a lot of untrue things, but it's all so subjective. And then so I feel like cancel culture is stemming from that, like wanting to like just push people off their platforms, silence them.
When
like,
we are
all flawed.
Yeah, our whole community, there are opinions everywhere, and I just think that was one of the reasons I used to have a channel when I was really young, and then I stopped, because there was also another reason. It's everyone now has an opinion, and it's so broad, and I was asking myself, does my opinion even matter? Like, should I just... Everyone else is echoing each other at this point, so it's like, how do you find the right voice, and who do you listen to that's actually going to benefit what you're absorbing into your life? Because there's so much noise out there.
It's so like social media, like just like scrolling, there's like a million things happening all the time.
Exactly.
And sometimes I feel like I lose my own voice, like in my head.
Yeah.
And one thing that when I was going through like a lot of anxiety and I would be basically distracting myself scrolling through Instagram, I would have to like actually repeat my name to myself like over and over again, just like it actually like sinks in, and like you say your name, your full name, and it just sinks in, and then you're like, this is my voice, like it goes back to you. I feel like we're so used to like so many people saying a million things, like even friends, you know, everyone has an opinion on what you should do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like your choice.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's also speaking of like other people having a choice and opinion. Remember, I think I was telling you this a few months ago. It's like, say that you have a relationship that's going on and just seeing someone and actually not telling people about it. And because you know that you're still in a really confused state and having too much opinion, because of course you want to share, right? And we've all been through that. And then so I decided, why not maybe try and not talk so much about it and decide for myself until it gets to a point where like, okay, I think I'm open. I'm
ready.
To, so it's like it's like a real life Instagram, ask me anything kind of moment. And I think it also is important to value your own opinions first. Of course you're going to want to ask friends for some sort of opinion, but putting yourself first, whether it's a job, like maybe say even I have a casting, I might not tell people first, because even today I have a casting coming up. I was like, should I message my acting coach or should I just trust my gut and see for myself and see how it goes? So just, it doesn't matter if it's in a relationship or anything. Your next step, I'm going to keep it to myself, value my own opinion. If I mess up, I messed up on my own. And there wasn't so many voices in my head. I don't know.
Yeah, like privacy is peace.
Yeah.
But it's like knowing how to balance that. Like not being overly private to the point where you're not connected with
closed off.
Where you're disconnected from the people around you, but also having people who respect your boundaries with your privacy. Like, you know, if you don't share with me, but like, it's fine. Like, I respect that. And I think that it's important to protect things which are very vulnerable and very new. And that's something that I've had to learn the hard way, as you know. It's like, I used to be like, oh my god,
everything!
Like, this is happening in my life, and I'm gonna share every single second of it with all the people that I love, and I want everyone to know how happy I am. And then when things go wrong, I'm like, ooh.
How do I explain this?
It's like, everyone's like, yo, what happened to that? I'm like,
yeah.
You know? Yeah, so I think, agree. Is like, keeping, like, not everything needs to be said out loud. Not everything needs to be shared. And knowing who to share it with is also very important.
True. Yeah. Say if we go back to the opinion thing, like with everyone has a platform, I used to be the type that if I had an opinion, I immediately had to share it. And then now that I'm older, I realize if I take a day or two to sort of mull it over, and then I realize, oh, there might be another side to it. I might not feel the same way I did, as fired up as I was originally. But after a while, if it does feel that strongly, then yeah, okay, maybe
like,
I'll
if it
share
still resonates, right?
But if it doesn't, it simmers down, then you're kind of like, oh, thank God I didn't say that, you know?
Yeah. I think it's like a skill built over time of knowing the beauty of such raw and strong emotions.
Yes, the
you know,
beauty.
It's
there
like
is beauty,
so it's so raw and it's so important.
It's so human.
Exactly. But also knowing when, like, to just think about it for a minute. Like, sometimes you can't, and that's okay. Just take responsibility. Be like, hey, I had a moment, and
take it back.
That happened. I can't take it back, so here I am.
Yeah.
But then if you can take it, if you can think about it for a second, then
exactly.
Just meditate on it for a little. Like, ooh,
it wasn't that bad. Actually, I see the other side to it now. Yeah. It's a big strength in sort of like reeling yourself back in, or like taking responsibility for something that you did say and realize, actually, I don't agree with myself.
Yeah. And knowing when your own brain is actually working, because like it's like true. Like when I was going through like a really low point, like just scientifically, your brain is just not at its best. And when it's not at its best, you actually cannot and you should not trust your own thoughts. Like, it's very dangerous. And that's why it's important to have people who are close to you to borrow their brain, I would say. Like, if I'm not thinking clearly and I don't believe myself, I don't trust myself, and I'm having all of these really negative voices, then I would go like, hey, Asha, like, I'm feeling this way. And you'd be like, no, like, I think you're amazing, and, you know, you got this, and that's why you need the support system. It's like, your brain is not always on its top game.
Like, when you have a feeling that I can't trust my gut right now, then it's sort of like, you need to reach out.
You need to reach out. You need to borrow someone's brain. And I think that is actually the bravest thing to do, is acknowledging that you are not thinking right now.
Right?
But
I agree with the whole finding the right person to talk and vent to, because that other person could take it completely the wrong way. And they just take your information, and then they're like, oh, who Asha is going down a spiral, she's lost her mind, and blah blah blah, just bad mouthing you and thinking that you're completely unstable.
Yeah.
When in fact everyone goes through those moments, and that they just took it like they just weren't the right person.
Because they would basically use it against you. Like I've had like moments where I've shared like really vulnerable things with certain people, and then after sharing that, it seems like I don't trust what I say anymore because they're like, oh, but you're never thinking straight. And like,
no, you said this last week. Why are you saying it this week? Yeah.
So you need to talk to someone who like really understands that things change.
Yeah, and then you realize like the more people that you meet, there are certain types of people that they're still friends, but they're the type of friends that you might not share everything with, and then that's okay because there can be different levels. Like even with family members, you don't share everything with every family member. Yeah, I think it's like
I definitely used to love oversharing. Still have certain tendencies, but
you're more picky with the people.
I'm more picky with people, and I think why did I overshare? I think I don't even know. Like maybe I wanted some sort of validation. Like
I also think would it be a phase, because I definitely had those moments as well. Back in the day when there was like those diary entries, we wrote about our entire day, man. Back then it was like we had photos of us in the classroom, we had lunch, we had blah blah blah. It's all in writing as man. So I think it's sort of like this phase in life where you're going through stuff and every moment is quite precious and you just want to share it with everyone, and I think it's normal. But then you slowly realize that little things that you share, there's like 10 pictures, but there's only one special one that you really want to share, and the others are kind of for yourself. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
And the way that, I mean, don't want to sound too cheesy, but that also affects the way that we share. It's like, you know how like you take photos before, like I would use like a digital camera or whatever, like,
upload it,
and you'd have certain memory, right? You wouldn't be able to take like a million photos a day like I do now.
Videos,
like you wouldn't be like take a photo of my food and I'm gonna take a picture of this cat. Like you'd be like, oh, this is a very nice moment. I'm gonna take my camera out and take a photo.
And you realize, oh, I'm running out of memory on my phone.
As we are. Yeah. The camera has died 5 times. So I think it's about time to call it a night, and we've covered a lot of ground.
A lot. And I think I need to sleep on it. We've gone through topics that even I didn't think we would go to.
Same. But thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
For my first episode. I love you, and I thank you so much for taking the time. And you guys, stay tuned.
Digest.
Bye.